right. Well, I'll try to put together what I think I heard us say and send it to you too, and you can revise it, bring it into something that makes sense.
Okay.
So, Mitch, Jeff Mount from Mason County Central has joined us, and seeing that it's about 6 minutes after 10, we'll probably get started with your presentation, and if others join, we'll just welcome them.
Sure.
Sound good, Jeff? Sound good, Jeff Mount? Yep, he's nodding his head.
All right. So hey, Jeff, thanks for joining us. Just a real quick intro. I'm Mitch Fowler. I'm the Director of School Data Services with the Calhoun ISD, and I've been up in your neck of the woods here recently to talk a little bit about how we've implemented Illuminate and just some of the pieces that have gone into the implementation, really before we jumped into all the pointing and clicking and all the technical stuff about the tool. And so, Linda and her crew asked me to talk with the superintendents a little bit today about some of that background stuff. So not so much the data warehouse point and all the technical stuff, but some of the foundational pieces that we laid for us. So, and Jeff, if you want to, I think your microphone might be muted. So if you want, I don't want to miss any questions you got. So just feel free to jump in whenever you got questions. All right, cool. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll go ahead and get started.
All right, can you hear me now?
Hey, there we go.
All right.
Hey, it's Monday, so that's how it goes, right?
All right, appreciate it.
Okay.
I can hear you all along.
What's that?
I can hear you all along.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to jump in here, and like I said, anytime feel free to stop me and just ask any questions. So one of the things I wanted to start with is this idea, I don't know if you've seen the TED Talk from this guy, Simon Sinek. His name's down in the bottom right, S-I-N-E-K. And what Simon did is he basically developed this really simple idea, and I've tried to capture the idea on the screen. And Simon has worked with most folks in the business field about how innovative leaders can create change and kind of get people on board with them. And so his this idea is called the Golden Circle. And if you go onto YouTube and you look up Simon Sinek, once again it's S-I-N-E-K. If you look up his video on the Golden Circles, he's going to explain in way better detail what I'm going to explain to you now. So the idea here is that we usually ask the questions of what are we doing, how are we going to do it, and then very very few times we get into the why. Why are we doing this? And so what I tried to illustrate here is, with the red arrow, in terms of a data warehouse, okay, so what do we want to train people on? How are we going to train them? We kind of start from the outside and work our way in. And I know with the data warehouse and a lot of initiatives that I'm a part of, we rarely start with the why. So, why are we investing as much time and money and resources with a data warehouse? What's our purpose? So we really tried to start with the why, start in the middle, and kind of work our way out here in Calhoun when we implemented Illuminate. So, with the green arrow, again, just trying to center ourselves and ask, why are we doing this? Why are we collecting data? Why are we having people go to training? And then moving from the inside out. And the reason that Sinek kind of proposes that this works is because it's pretty closely tied to brain research. If you can connect with people on the why level, in most cases, people are gonna follow you. People are gonna buy in. So he kind of talks about, people don't buy what you buy, they buy why you do it. And if you can connect on that common level with the why, you can create more momentum. So just wanted to start with that. It kind of drives a lot of our work down here and is a big part of kind of what I talked about when I was up your way a couple months ago. So again, if you haven't had a chance, it's a great video. It's about 18 minutes long, start to finish, and changed the way I do a lot of my work. So it's pretty good to check out. So another hard part here that we face is I work in the Department of Technology, but I do most of my work with curriculum instruction and assessment. And so, we always kind of have this tool of the day, and there's all these websites and apps and things that are always, kind of coming out, and they might last for 6 months, or we might do a training on them, and then they kind of fall to the wayside. And so the reason I have this image here is because I think it's important for educators to step back and discern, which tools do you have available to you. I mentioned this when I was up there, last time. Wikipedia defines a tool as a physical object that helps you achieve a goal. And so if you don't know what your goal is, if you don't know why you're using a data warehouse or why you're using a student information system, if you don't know what that goal is, or you don't start with the why, it's awfully difficult to pick out the right tool. I might end up trying to, pick a wrench to hang up a picture in my living room, and that's probably not the best tool for my goal. So again, really just trying to get people to slow down and be discerning about what it is they want to get out of the tool and what their goal is. Does that make sense?
Sure does.
Awesome. All right. And so it comes as a surprise to folks where, I'll meet with people and I'll kind of say, okay, what do you want to accomplish here? What do you want to do? And they'll explain what they want to do. Illuminate or Power School or, whatever tool, that might not be the best tool. So, we got to take stock in what do we have and what's the best one. So just want to reiterate that one. All right, so now we're going to start to get into some kind of pretty specific educational stuff. So what I have up here is one of what could probably be 1,000, hundreds of thousands of protocols that educators might use to analyze data. So I worked with a school, actually it was Battle Creek Public Schools, and I asked them, before we do any kind of training on the warehouse, what questions do you want teachers and or administrators to answer once they collect some of the data? And so you can see here that they gave me this is the sheet they gave me. It's pretty basic, 4 questions or so. But the important about this is that they know that this is the end result. They need teachers to be able to answer these questions efficiently. And if the data warehouse is getting in the way of these questions being answered, then the teachers aren't going to be able to do what they need to do with students. So this is a huge piece for me, and it's a huge piece for districts that want me to do training, because if they don't have these questions in place, that tells me they probably haven't started with the why, and we need to go back and figure out why are you collecting the data and what do you want to do with it. So this is an important training piece for us to kind of start with this kind of a protocol. And it doesn't matter what questions you have. We were talking about the Lipton and Wellman protocol. There's all sorts of protocols out there. The important part is that you have one, and you have one before you jump into all the training and stuff that you take a look at. And you're going to see this come back here in a little bit, because it's important to pair the protocol with the tool and making sure that the tool you're picking to help with the protocol is going to give you what you need. So speaking of what you need, I have a lot of folks, and I apologize, this is blurry, but I have a lot of folks who don't really know what they need, and they're not quite sure what a data warehouse does for them. And the reason for that is because they aren't quite sure what to do with data anyway. I kind of liken this to, I used to teach 4th grade, and it wouldn't make much sense for me to start a multiplication lesson by giving kids a graphing calculator and showing them how to use a graphing calculator to learn multiplication. That's a pretty powerful tool, and they probably don't have the base knowledge of multiplication and how numbers works in number sense to use that tool effectively. They're going to spend most of their time just kind of messing with the tool and typing in stuff, and it's going to get in the way. So what I have here is a picture of an activity that I do with educators who are having a hard time just figuring out what to do with data in general. And so what we do is we start with a very simple 11-question social studies assessment. It's multiple choice, it's tied to standards, and I give them the answer key, and I have them go through, and the first thing I do is I have them go through and I just say, okay, here's the answer key, score the test, and tell me how the kids did afterwards. And it's interesting, I give them like 15 minutes to just score the test, and I only give them like 5 or 6 kids, sample tests. So they go through and they score it, and then what's interesting is that pretty much everybody in the room is doing this differently. So some might go through and grade 1 test at a time. Other people might go through and grade 1 question at a time. So
question one from each kid. And so what they end up with is I have them share their data, and they're all over the board. Some people might say, well, my class average was this. Some people might say, well, I had 5 students who were proficient. And so they're all over the board because there isn't a common understanding of how they're going to look at data and what they're going to do with it. So I kind of use it to build some some base knowledge. And then we jump into these templates. And so I give them 3 really simple templates to help them organize their data. And you can see here, this is a template that is organized by question. So they put the correct answer up at the top, and then they write in what each kid's correct answer was. And they can start to look for patterns in what questions went well, what questions didn't go well, and they have all the kids in one spot. We then move from each question for each kid to kind of this template, and they do this all by hand. And they're most of the time they're complaining about, this takes so long. I could do this much quicker in Excel. I could do this much quicker in this tool or that tool. And that's exactly what I want them to do. I want them to start thinking about what tools do they have available to help make this process more efficient. So you can see here, they kind of go through and list, for question 1, it was worth 1 point. There was a standard, 3 kids answered it correctly. So about 60% of the kids got question 1 correct. So very simple analysis. So then we move from the question level analysis to the standard level analysis. And I show them how to look back at their question level analysis and kind of combine things so they can look at, what standards went well, what standards didn't go well, and make some claims like that. So all of this stuff kind of takes usually about an hour and a half. And the interesting part is that usually it does exactly what I want it to. And what I want it to do is I want people to realize to begin with, if I ask you to look at your data and score an assessment, we do that in vastly different ways, unless we're explicitly taught how to do that. And so then when we walk through this protocol, they start to look at different ways to organize the data, and then they start thinking about what tools are available to do it faster. And the nice part is when they do it by hand, they definitely see the value add for some of the tools like a data warehouse or something like Excel, because without knowing what it looks like to do it by hand, they don't really have the appreciation for what a tool like that can do for them. So I'll kind of pause, and if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them at me. We're going to change directions here in a little bit. Any questions about that process?
Oh, pretty straightforward.
Okay, excellent. The big takeaway here is really just asking, to what extent have your staff been explicitly trained on how to use data and how to organize it? And then do they have the questions and understand the questions that they need to answer? So that's the big takeaway. So all this leads to this. All the stuff that they did by hand, they can keep doing it by hand. But the point is a data warehouse should make that more efficient. And what we found in a lot of cases is a data warehouse wasn't making things efficient. It was getting in the way because people were trained, but they were trained on every single button and point and click in the data warehouse. They weren't trained on specifically what do you need to know to achieve your outcomes that your district or your building has set up for you. So that was the important part to drive home there. So now, here's the beautiful part. We're going to come back to that same protocol, the questions that people want to have answered. So what I have here, you can see what's changed, is I have given the name of a few reports. So these are names of reports that actually come from Illuminate. So if I know that these are the questions that you want to answer, I can say, oh, well, these are really the only 2 or 3 reports that you need to know. I don't have to train you on understanding all 20 reports or all the features of the system. I can zero in on what reports do you need to get the information and get out of the warehouse and do what you need to do. Because really the majority of this time should be with kids and with peers discussing, not muddling through all these reports in the data warehouse. So this was important for us to make that connection between how does the tool help you achieve the goal of answering these questions. It was interesting. I had a curriculum director who, when we talked about this, he said, I kind of assumed that once we got all of our data in the data warehouse, our PLCs would just kind of take care of themselves. We'd have better grade level meetings and this and that. And when he looked at this, he realized, the tool is only going to answer about half the questions. There's still other questions about, how we provide the time and support. I mean, there's no magical report that's going to say, well, here you go. Here's how you should rearrange your schedule, and here's how you should provide your support. So it kind of helped him understand that the tool has limitations, and the tool is only going to help him achieve part of this goal, but at least he had a better reference for what to expect. And so then, once people have gone through doing data by hand, and they understand which questions they want to ask, then a report that looks like this becomes all that more powerful. So it doesn't matter what assessment this is for. It doesn't matter the name of this report. It happens to be a report from Illuminate. But the nice part is that teachers can say, okay, it's red, it's green. So each row is a kid. So some kids got this part, some kids didn't get that part. And the report starts to take on a whole new context, because before they jump in and start looking at the reports, they've already understood what questions they want to answer and how do they want the data organized. So this is where, if we do training and we jump right into the reports and we start showing them all these reports and they don't care and they don't see a need, then we're not starting with the why. We're just hanging out in that outer circle of, what is this and how do you get to the reports? We're not getting into the middle part. So, I'm going through this pretty quick. If you're following along, that there's not much left to this presentation. So I'm going to end with this piece. So most people, hopefully, have an assessment calendar. That is to say, they have a document that they lean on that says, within our district, these are the assessments that we're going to give. This is when we're going to give them, and they kind of go from there. Now, most of my districts have what you see here. So they can say, within kindergarten through fifth grade, we're going to give a Fontes and Pinnell assessment. We want you to administer the test between this window. We want you to enter the data between this window, and then we want you to do some kind of analysis within that window. And that's okay. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have a few districts that don't have something to this detail, and that makes supporting them even more difficult. So one of the cool things that people have done this year with Illuminate, they've taken their assessment calendar and they have added links to the actual assessment. So I'm going to go here and click on this, and you can kind of see. So what that link does is it actually takes me to, let's see here, once I log in. So it actually takes me to the assessment. Now, it doesn't matter. This is a reading assessment. You guys might have DRA or whatever. But just that simple little step of linking the assessment in the assessment calendar and having teachers just click on it and go right into Illuminate to enter the data or look at the reports, that's been huge. So it's a little thing, but it's been pretty awesome. All right, so let's go here. Now, whoa, back up. Sorry about that. Okay. So this next row that I just put in here is really where I'm trying to get folks to go next. And I got maybe 3 or 4 districts that are doing a good job with it. Others it's taking a little bit longer to bring along. So in addition to what you see up here, let me go full screen here real quick. There we go. In addition to this row of information, they're starting to add this stuff. So for Fontes and Pinnell, what questions do we want teachers to ask? What questions do we want principals to ask? How about central office? And these aren't the best questions in the world. They're sample. But the point is that the district has thought about, is this assessment important enough that teachers, principals, and central office folks should be doing something with it? If the answer is no, then you might ask yourself, well, why are we collecting the data on it? And does it need to be an official required assessment? So we have those questions that have been pretty powerful. And then the reports to assist. So this column ties in this part right here. So which reports do we want teachers and principals and district level folks, which reports do we want them to use to answer those questions? So again, we're tying the tool to the purpose. So if we click on, go ahead, you have a question? Nope. Okay. All right. I thought I heard somebody had a question. So if we click on Teacher Overview, and we go ahead and log in again, and I'm thinking I may have linked to the wrong thing. What it will actually do is it will take you, I linked to the wrong thing. So this is all the reports, all 24 reports. This is incredibly overwhelming for most educators. So if we link right to this is a link, we can link right to it. And so then people can go ahead and click on teacher overview and it will take them right to that report. So again, the reports are cool, but if you jump right to the reports, then you're going to lose a lot of the context and a lot of the why behind it. So I think this piece right here is really where we're trying to move folks, is to have a comprehensive document that says, here's what we're going to collect, here's when we're collecting it, here's what you should do with it, and here are the resources from Illuminate that can help you do all of that successfully. So let's see here. Yeah, that's really all I have. It's a little bit about what we've done here, and we still got a long way to go, but that's a little bit about what we've done in Calhoun, Berry and Branch County, actually, to try to start with the why and get that whole kind of base built for this work. So what questions do you have?
Mitch, my question would be that who is doing this work, this big work at the local districts in your area? Who is doing the you set up the why and the whole framework and stuff? Who is doing that work? And is it the principals? Is it I don't know if anybody even has curriculum coordinators anymore.
Yeah.
You know, who's doing that work?
That's a great question. So, Jeff, we have, I work with 21 school districts, and we have districts that have anywhere from, 7,000 kids, K-12. And I got one that's got 190 K-12. So yep. we're all over the board. So we have those situations where we have the superintendent is also the principal, is also the technology director, all that.
The bus driver.
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer your question, in some cases where there's a curriculum person, it's the curriculum person who's doing it. I'm going to say in most cases, it's the principal. And then the principal is working with a team of lead teachers or school improvement team, to really just say, hey, what are we collecting? Why are we collecting it? And that conversation has been really well received by teachers, because what usually ends up happening is once they start taking inventory of what they have, they realize they don't need to collect some things, and they can take some things off teachers' plates. And that's a pretty big win for them. So that's usually how it looks for us.
Well, you mentioned efficiency in your presentation, and we certainly have to have that and demand that, because for us, and I'll say in our ESD, every one of us are in that. It'll be our principals probably carrying the mail here, with setting those things up. And so, if we work collectively as a group in the ESD to, get that framework set up, so our principals, because putting more on, we don't call it the plate. It's not a full plate; it's a full platter.
I like
the many hats that come with being a principal in our area. We're at a max 2,000, and down to the 190 that you're referring to too. And it's our wearing multiple hats, And we've talked about in our district there at Mason County Central being as efficient as possible too, because we can't just, it's not our life to just sit and dabble with numbers and play with the data.
Yep.
Love to do that. In my role, I can't just do that. I can't expect my principals to. So as we learn from best practices like Calhoun and such, I think what we'd want to know is, hey, you've got some of these frameworks set up. How easy is it to us to learn from that and then transfer that over to what our principals can do? So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can learn from practices. So that's what I would demand. Yeah,
and I know, I think it's over in West Shore. They have you guys have the assessment class going on where they're kind of taking a look at, what assessments are available and quality assessments. And, that's a huge piece for us, and one that I think we need to revisit, because what we're finding is the elementary teachers or anybody, they're collecting this data because they think that administration wants to do something with it, and then administration will say, well, no, I thought you were collecting because you want to do something with it, and then there's like, oh, well, maybe we don't need to collect it. And so that's really where I think revisiting that comes down to an efficiency issue.
When you mentioned the Simon Sinek, we use that as one of our introductory videos for our multi-tier system support work here at Mason County Central, because it is starting with the why, and because otherwise, why do you do it? And so, it really has grabbed traction with our group. I want to make sure they're doing the right work, and not just doing the work for the sake of, compliance and, hey, we need to send this report to somebody, and I agree. I think some of our teachers sometimes thought, well, we thought you needed that information. Like, well, no, actually, we thought you'd need that information. So when you say it definitely connects with where we are, and, because a lot of times we feel like we're grabbing data just to comply, just to send this report into somebody who's going to look at it someday. But I want it to be at the grassroots level. I want it to be in my teachers' hands. But I've talked about with, you mentioned hitting all the buttons and all the things and stuff and doing those. I was a principal when we used My Tracker. I don't know if you remember that, but Tracker, the package, and you could have a million reports out of that one. But as a principal, I really narrowed it down to, because I did dabble a lot, I narrowed it down to about 5 reports that made a difference for me, and I worked at narrowing it down to 2 or 3 reports that made a difference in the classroom.
Yep.
And it was easy access to those things, because otherwise it's really an elephant to eat, and you can't eat the whole thing. And so that's really what I'd be looking for in Illuminate too, is, give me those basic reports, because the real experts and the people that are really into it, they're going to start dabbling and they're going to expand that search and, start using more and more of the product or the tool. But what is the foundation for what do my principals need? What do my teachers need? What do I need as a district level? And so that's really what I would want to do, is pare it down, because it is a big tool and it's got a lot of great features to it, and I'm excited about it. But to start, you got to start with something that's going to be successful, create a level of efficiency for our teachers and our principals, so they can do some snapshot work, and that'll get them excited about the tool to start expanding that work, and that's really what, just from my own experience and what I'm hearing from the staff is, give me the basics so I can get working on it, and that's what we're going to work on. So I really that spreadsheet piece of the connect, there it is. It's right here. I don't have to go and do a full search. I can just link to it right now.
Good. Yeah, and it excites me to hear, a superintendent considering that, we don't have to do training on everything. Let's just start with what we absolutely need. Let's get some quick wins, and then, like you said, you're going to have the early adopters that are going to just branch out on their own, and they're going to get their peers excited. And right on. I'm glad to hear somebody at your level is thinking about that.
Jeff, while you're talking about that, and Mitch, as you think about what you've done with your districts, trying to figure out, and I appreciate bringing up the class. The problem with the class is, we have bits and pieces across our 3 counties. Some people have taken last year's class and this year's class, and they're ready to go flying here. And then we have some who haven't taken anything about the class. How and where? I mean, we're having this day next month, where we're inviting the coaches to come with their principals on January 13th. In the morning, and Mitch and Heidi will both be here, where we can start, entering data and then continuing to talk about the why, because most of the principals weren't at that. How do you suggest we move forward just, to get Illuminate? I mean, I love that form. I love how it clicks immediately to Illuminate for them. I think that's, when I was a principal, that's what people want, is easy, get it here, let me see it, and then let me get out and do, like you said, the real work. Any ideas, either of you? Or Heidi?
I think in a way, Linda, I think you've answered some of your own question, and that is that, if we can show our principals, maybe in a snapshot of this is what we want to do, we're going to build this form and we're going to have the links on there. We're going to make it, at least at the start, very simple. As you grab those wins while they're here, the low-hanging fruit, that will grab the traction that we need. Because, unfortunately, sometimes we're living in the data director days, and data director was kind of an epic failure for our principals for having something that provided data for us easily. We end up having the experts like the Meg Browns and things that could, pull the stuff off from there and show it to us. And we're like, oh, wow, that's really great. Where'd you get that? And it was something we always had, but we didn't know how to do it. And so if we can grab some things right now, my light just went off in my room there, sorry. Now are successful, then our staff, at least our principals will get successful. So I don't know if there's something that we can do. I mean, I'm going to push my principals to be there and, have their teams there, but that really needs to be a successful day. Because otherwise, if they walk away from it going, oh, it's just more of the same or what we did before, it starts to feel like a failure, feel familiar to that failure of data director, then we'll never grab the traction, and it'll be another failure on our part. So I think you said it. If we build this template and say, folks, this is it. This is what we'll do. Because you're right, we have people all over the map right now, Linda. But we can at least get everybody on the base of that low-hanging fruit piece. I think that will grab the traction we need.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, I think and we talked before Jeff joined us about some work up front that we might do with that group. I think it's becoming clear to me that folks who are going to attend that session probably need to come thinking about, and we kind of talked about maybe they need to come with the assessments they want to administer and all that stuff. But even before that, talking with your principals and principals talking with superintendents, as a district, why? So why are we doing this? But then also, what does our assessment calendar look like? What questions do we want to answer? I mean, Heidi, I'm thinking that could be incredibly powerful to have people come with, hey, these are the questions that I need to have answered with the data. And then if we knew that ahead of time, we could tailor the training so that we don't have to show them everything.
Right.
We just have to show them like 3 or 4 things, and they're good.
Yeah, I agree.
3 or 4 sounds good compared to everything,
Yeah.
Because it's and if you know this, if they don't use it, they lose it. So it's got to be something that's very usable right now. Obviously our folks here, and frankly in our ESD wide, are use NWEA, and but we use ERA and DIBELS and all those things that our elementary teachers are just, they want it at their fingertips. We want to be able to portfolio kids, and basically say, hey, this is a snapshot of Johnny. This is how we did in these things. Triangulate data, not have a data point, but several pieces of data that more accurate picture of Johnny in the classroom, especially when we're transferring them from classroom to classroom or grade level to grade level and such. And so those are things that will really grab traction with our staff. So we can share those with parents. It just keeps going on and on and on, all the layers. And so I think if we can have those pieces in place, the simple, because again, I will have folks that will just stay simple, folks that will go crazy, and then that'll be that kind of the contagious thing is I'll have that teacher go, hey, where'd you get that report? And they're like, well, I did this. Oh, show me how to do that. And then it will grow and grow and grow. I'll have some that will stay right where they are. This is what my principal wants me to have, and that's fine. We'll push them a little bit, but the others will take off, and it will be contagious across the board. The downside of that is if it's a negative or if we lose that traction, that contiguous piece will eat at it, and then we'll have another failure. That's my biggest fear here, is that if we don't see some success soon, we might lose it, and then it'll really take, the superintendent's going, but we will be successful unless we need to do this, and that scares me.
So Jeff,
go ahead. Go ahead, Mitch.
Well, Jeff, do you get the sense that your peers in the area, is it a common practice for superintendents to have standing meetings with principals and talking about academic data? So like maybe what you would even consider a data conference between principals and superintendents? Is that something that is, in our area, we're probably 50-50. And I'm going to ask you a question and then give you my response, but I've heard that I can tell you for sure that the districts in our area that do this the best, and honestly that transitioned from data director to Illuminate, that did it seamlessly, were the ones that had consistent ongoing conversations about student achievement at the central office level. So I don't know what you guys have up there.
Well, I can speak for Mason County Central. I don't know about the rest. I hear of talks and things, but we're kind of starving for data, or usable data. And I know Linda and Bruce have heard this from us. At the elementary level, it's really well embedded in our K2 and our 3-5 building, because they've had it. Now they're using it and stuff. They use it to make decisions and drive instruction. At our secondary, it's growing. Now with NWEA, it's really have traction. As they want to see those reports, and our teachers are really talking about it. Our high school is now just really and really the focus school work has really helped us to kind of say, hey, you need data. You really do have more data than you think. We just got the 11th grade MME. Well, no, actually, you got a lot more than that. And or you can generate some more if you really go out and get some. We've done some of that. So we talk about that at the district level, but it unfortunately it hasn't grabbed full traction yet, because again, like you are dealing with districts across Calhoun in the area of some are not. Linda's already some are long ways in this thing, and some are way behind. The same thing happens at the building level, to the district level, where you have some that are much further along than others. Our high school, we embraced when our elementary school became a focus school, a few years ago, that we're going to learn from this process and try to make this a K-12 piece. And what we realized was we are limited at the high school level. Then our high school became a focus school, and then we got the resources, and Bruce and stuff, that kind of opened our eyes. When there's more here than we ever imagined, I should say, and we can use that stuff. And it's creating a mind shift in our district, which is good. Now we want to, when we get this Illuminate here, we want to be able to showcase that and say, I want to be down to practitioner level, not at the central office level. I want to be able to look at reports, but I want my teachers to be able to look at those reports and make decisions to drive instruction. I want them to be able to see that, man, we are pretty short in this particular area. Here's our gap. Here's our weakness. Use that gap and weakness to drive instruction, because we have discovered that. Some of our focus work is doing just that, and I think when we get our PSAT work, PSAT data back, which we're now doing, at 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, we don't have that. Well, I think they did all right in 8th grade, but let's see how they did in 11th grade. Now we're going to have some of that. So we're excited about it. And if we have a good data warehouse like Illuminate to be able to really show and portfolio of kids, we'll be able to get the schedules and the teaching designed around our kids to fill them up.
Awesome.
So Jeff, one of the conversations we wanted to have in our Google Hangout today with the superintendents was, what's going on in your meetings, and how do we, get principals here to learn this with their coaches to move forward. Because what we're finding, Jeff, is, you still sending, your principals, but we have less and less principals at the meeting. And as you can see, we have less and less superintendents at the Google Hangout. I know everyone's busy. And as you know, we created this for continuous communication. So I don't know. There.
Well, I think what really has to come down to it is, even our Sups meetings haven't had perfect attendance, that's for sure. I know, and I've heard that principals have, been down quite a bit too. It becomes a district level expectation, and if it's kind of like, well, if the meeting doesn't feel relevant, then people will speak with their feet. They just don't show up, And I don't know all the reasoning behind everybody else. I've heard my principal say, well, geez, so and so is not showing up. It's become less important. I know we've talked about this very Google Hangout here was something that we came up with in our Sups meetings as being a more efficient use of people's time. And here I am looking at people that I would have expected to be here and wondering where everybody else is. Really what it's going to come back down to is we need to have these tough conversations at the Sups table. We need to have the conversations at the principal's table, but it probably really needs to start with the Sups, because if the Sups saying you don't need to bother going to those principals meetings, they won't go, because I know that the job back in the office and back in school is huge, and their mind is there anyway, going, oh boy, wait till Johnny blows up. So I'm gonna be leaving here in a second, and I'm gonna have a phone call. And I know that is, but if you got to really set that expectation, I've always said, unless there's an emergency, you need to be there. Well, almost every day in the life of a principal, there's an emergency somewhere.
Yeah,
and
I know.
It's an easy excuse to not go, but we have to have that conversation. Sups, maybe, and I don't have the answer. I really don't, but because I don't want to speak for others.
Right.
We need to have that conversation eyeball to eyeball and figure that out, because there's so many things we need. I know some will say, well, we'll just do that on our own. And that's not a true level of efficiency either for districts our size. We need to use the resources that are available, the Bruces, the Meg Browns, the Linda Stegas. We've embraced that. Others have said, well, we're going to do it on our own. And if they do that, then I guess we have to just move forward without them. And we can't be all things to all people. And if some just say, hey, we're going to hire our own person and do this, and we're going to use our resources there, then we got to move on and forget about them. And maybe there's only 3 or 4 of us that really want to embrace it. Then we'll just do that, I guess. But I'd like to see them, look them in the eyeball and say, what are you missing out on? Because maybe you're hurting the rest of us in the process. Maybe you're holding the rest of us back that want to go. And if you want to move on, move on. And, but I like to do that eyeball to eyeball and not guess what they're thinking. But it's always hard to get them up there to have that conversation.
So maybe it'll be a conversation. We have a Sups meeting January 6th. And maybe part of it will help from the strategic planning that we're having. Maybe some things will specifically come out that we don't know, that, thinking that data director is, if you hear screaming in the background, I just want to let you know that, remember, this is a special needs facility. So no one's getting killed here at West Shore. But there is a child probably having a very interesting day. But, what, Jeff?
We know how that goes. We understand.
Right. I thought, gosh, I better tell them. Screaming is going on. We're really not holding anyone in the back room, telling them. So, we did a survey trying to find out what they want. But anyway, we'll look at that. Jeff, while I have you, the other thing is, I think that what we'd like to know in the general ed team is if you are planning on using our whole staff on February 12th for that professional development day that you have. We did reserve everybody here. And if you do, then we probably need to meet with you as your team soon so that we can start planning what you want us to do. And maybe it'll be around data.
Well, hopefully we have some that we can use. The right now, that's not even being facetious. That's fact. Anyway, February 12th. We have that on tomorrow's agenda at our ad council, and we are planning on that. We did ask you to kind of hold that date. We are, as of right now, planning on using your staff. We love it. As you know, we've taken full advantage of that in the past. We'd like to continue. I will have it on my admin council agenda tomorrow to just finalize what our hope is. And I do know that we were talking about February 12th being a heavy data day, just to really look at what we have, because we really haven't been able to use it very well anyway. And there's an example of, if we can get some Illuminate basic stuff, we can grant those apples right now that are hanging low on those branches and really show our staff how it can be used to work the rest of the year.
So Heidi, that's February 12th, if you want to think about seeing if you could join us on that day. Jeff, my suggestion would be then, and I know you have your meetings on Tuesdays, so I don't know if this would at all be possible. Our Gen Ed meetings are normally on Mondays, as you know. So it would be great if the team could meet with you guys so we really knew what you want, maybe help you think through what you want. And then, because they'll need to start planning soon in January.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's a possibility at all to meet on a Monday. We have a meeting January 4th. That's the day they come back. The one good thing about it is kids aren't usually out of control the day they come back.
Yeah, the period, that could be the case. I could check on that and see if the 4th works. We were, that week we're kind of, let me see, we were going to have ad council on the 5th of that week. I will check and see if the 4th works for us.
Okay, we can come anytime during the day you would want us. Right.
Okay. Typically, I think we're meeting in the mornings now.
Okay.
And we'll just see if they want to move that. We can move that. That's a good point. I'm hoping they say, you're right. I think that might be our our best day of the week that week. Maybe the best day of the month, just because,
Be. All right. Well, any other questions for Mitch before I know you had something else, Mitch, and we greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate you taking your time to do this. And Mitch and Heidi, I'll be typing something up for my notes and for our January 13th meeting.
Okay.
Anything else for Mitch?
Just a thank you. Best practices is what we need to do. We need to share, and I appreciate your willingness to share.
No, thanks for having me. I look forward to working with you guys coming up here.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate
All right, guys. Have a good holidays, all right?
You
All right.
You too.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Jeff, anything else that you have for us as a Gen Ed team?
I think that's good. I will get back with you, probably tomorrow afternoon, hopefully, and with feedback I get regarding the 12th and January 4th, and we'll hopefully be able to firm up some dates and times.
Sounds wonderful. Thanks, Jeff.